Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to one and all. Welcome to Connected Across Miles Toastmasters Club, meeting number 8. We are a club that started with a vision to connect with Toastmasters from across the globe. We started this club with a reason that we wanted to explore our growth than what we had already seen. The mission is the same as every Toastmasters Club mission. We provide a supportive and a positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. We are looking forward to an amazing session today. We are looking forward to an energetic session today. I would like to hand over the stage and welcome our president of Connected Across Miles Toastmasters Club, someone who completed her DTM within 18 months of joining Toastmasters. She is someone who has been a contest chair, chief judge, and tech master for more than 200 contests in her 3.5 years journey so far. She is someone who is that strong pillar on whom you can build a very, very, very big dream. Please help me welcome on stage the strong foundation for Connected Across Miles Toastmasters Club, Distinguished Toastmaster Nimisha Singla.
Thank you so much, Distinguished Toastmaster Gayatri Deshmukh, for a wonderful introduction. And also setting up the ground rules and apprising us up about the mission of the club. I'm not sure whether I deserve that, but thank you so much. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the members in this room. With the purpose of connecting across miles, as apprised us I, Nimisha Singla, welcome you all to Connected Across Miles Toastmasters Club 8 meeting. A warm welcome to all the dignitaries from all around the world. Today, we are going to witness a panel discussion with humorous speech champions as panelists and moderator from various districts. And we feel privileged to be able to provide you this platform that helps all of us to learn the best from our champions on a single platform. I am, on one hand, very excited about today's agenda and wish that we all have a great time together. I welcome all the guests from various clubs as they have been introduced and welcomed by Distinguished Toastmaster Gayatri and Toastmaster Vaibhavi. Again, the strong pillars from our club. As the president of the club, I carry this virtual gavel and bring the 8th meeting of Connected Across Miles Toastmasters Club to order. And without further ado, I would like, please help me welcome with a huge round of applause our wonderful MC for today, a person with whom you can rely on consistency. I have seen her growth, and it gives me great pleasure to bring her on this stage and hand over this wonderful, wonderful agenda to her for today. With a round of applause, please welcome Toastmaster Vandita Shukla, our MC for today. Over to you.
Wow, that was sounding, right? So before we move on to the session, how many of you are afraid to deliver a humorous speech? Let's have a raise of hands. How many of you are afraid to deliver a humorous speech? Okay, just 3 people. Everybody else is so confident. Okay, all right. I see more hands. My next question. How many of you have ever played the role of joke master in the meeting? Ever delivered a joke in the Toastmasters Club? My hand is raised. So I'll tell you my experience. We just chartered a club a month back, and it was its first meeting. And with a lot of confidence, my division director said that, Vandita, you being our division mentor, come and join this meeting. I was like, okay. And in that meeting, he says, take any role that you like. So I said, okay, I'll be the speech evaluator. He was still not convinced. He said, Vandita, why not you become the joke master? So, oh my God. The person who shouts a lot, laughs a lot, and then speaks a lot, you're giving her joke master of the day. It's like, okay, challenge taken. The meeting was on the other day at 2 p.m. and till 1 p.m. I was still searching for a joke app for a corporate Toastmasters meeting. That was my situation. And then I found a joke. Very prepared. I went to the meeting and there's a huge conference room. I see the vice president of the corporate has also joined. And there were many other dignitaries as well. And still I was normal, happy. I was little sleepy, so I saw plates of chips served. I took one plate and ate all the chips. And I tell you, there were like something 400 to 500 grams of chips that I ate. And I was still relaxed until the journal evaluator said, now let's put a huge round of applause to the joke master of the day. And I had 4 chips in my mouth and I was like, oh my God. Now I have to deliver a joke. Like, okay. The lot of confidence and huge, enthusiasm in my chest. I went to the dance and I started my joke. And I see that my joke has ended, but people are still looking at me. There's not even a one smile that I can see on the faces of people. And I realized I was a big, big failure. The journal evaluator comes back in and he says, ladies and gentlemen, we always say, well done, or else we say, well tried. He looked directly in my eyes and said, well tried, Vandita. And I knew how bad it was. That is my first experience. And I think the last experience that I'll ever have as joke master of the day. I have been in many contests, judged many humorous speeches. And always I was very critical. But there is no humor in this humorous speech. How can I give it to me? And when I was standing on the dais and I was asked to crack a joke and make people laugh, I understood what tough a fight it is. That is why the president, Nimisha Singla, and our very own Gayatri took this labor on their shoulder that we will teach people, we will enlighten people how to be humorous. So yes, that's the agenda for today, simple and crisp. But before we begin, in the interest of people, I would like to tell you what's going to happen today. It is not going to be a conventional Toastmasters meeting. There will be a panel discussion, there will be journal evaluation, and that is it. I'm sorry, we will not have any impromptu session, but I'm extremely more apologetic that you will be laughing for a good 20 to 25 minutes. With that, let me invite the journal evaluator of the day to proceed ahead. May I have Shravanti Valampati, DTM, to take ahead the meeting. Let's welcome the journal evaluator for the day.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, friends. My name is Shravanti Valampati, and I have the pleasure of serving as your general evaluator today. Speaking of humor and speaking of jokes, one of my best memory of a joke at the beginning of a speech is this. I thought air was free until I paid extra at the airport for a bag of chips. I loved that when someone opened a speech with that. And at the airport, now we know how much we pay extra at the airport when we buy the same 25-cent bag of chips. With that, my role today encompasses comments about how the meeting has gone, what highlights of the meeting were, and how we could do something a little differently as we move forward in our Toastmasters journeys. I'm not going to go at this alone. I do have a team, and today, as I'm informed, my team will consist of our timer Vaibhavi Sondur, our wow counter Krishnesh Nayak, and I just did learn that we will be skipping the active listener portion at this time. Could I introduce our timer Vaibhavi Sondur to introduce their role?
Thank you so much, Madam General Evaluator. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, rather greetings, dear Toastmasters and guests. My role as timer is to remind, record, and report the time taken by each Toastmaster when they're speaking. But because it's a panel discussion today, the time constraints are different. I will be flashing the green card at the end of 30 minutes, yellow card at the end of 35 minutes, and red card at the end of 40 minutes. That's my role. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vaibhavi. At this time, it is my pleasure to invite Krishnesh Nayak, Toastmaster Krishnesh Nayak, to introduce their role as the wow counter for the meeting.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. The first non-wow moment is me being off camera, but I promise to fix that when I come back to give my report. My role as the wow counter, or as Saif Ali Khan would say, wow counter, is to note a few wow moments during the meet and share them with all of you so that you can revisit those wow moments. And I hope to have a lot more, and I hope to have a tough time picking out my top 3. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Excellent. I know we can always count on our Toastmaster Krishnesh to be doing the best job that they can in this role. At this time, again, I turn things over to our Toastmaster of the day, Vandita, so she can take us forward. Vandita, back to you.
Thank you so much, General Evaluator. Now, to my virtual audience, have you seen the posters of panel discussion today? A raise of hands. Nobody saw the posters? Only 2 people saw the posters? Okay. Now, the questions. Can anyone tell me the name of panel moderator? Let's see. How many of you took the posters seriously? Anybody would like to take the risk? Who is the panel moderator? DTM guy, you should no more make posters because nobody even sees them.
Dan.
Oh, okay, Mr. Raj. Point given. So can somebody else tell me who is the panelist today? One of the panelists?
Avishek Mitra.
Okay. Can we have Avishek Mitra on the spotlight, please? Can somebody else tell me who is the second panelist for today?
Joe R.
All right, that was a safe choice. But the most difficult one is awaiting. Who is the
Tharindu.
third, I think topmost, or the difficult panelist of today?
Tharindu, Distinguished Toastmaster.
Say it louder, say it louder. I know why you are hesitating.
Tharindu Ameresekere. I don't know whether I pronounced it properly or not.
Yeah, you did my job quite easy. I was not able to pronounce it, so I did all this setup just to let someone announce the name. As we begin, we have District 125 Humorous speech champion, Joe R. It's my pleasure, sir, to invite you. He's behavior and communication trainer public speaker, entertainer, and works as senior training manager at HDB Financial Services. He has been in learning and development domain for nearly 15 years. He's an active Toastmasters for almost 8 years. He is a distinguished Toastmaster, as speaks his name. He is District Humorous Speech Champion 2023. He's Toastmaster of the Year 2023. His District Evaluation Contest First Runner-Up 2023. His 2-time Tall Tales winner. Division Table Topics First Runner-Up 2022. International Speech Contest District Contestant 2022. Founding President of Backpackers Toastmasters Club. Past President, Distinguished Area Director, and 8 times Triple Crown Award. With a huge round of applause, I welcome Joe R DTM to the dais. Now, the second one, District 124 Humorous Speech Champion, Avishek Mitra, Distinguished Toastmaster. He joined Toastmasters in 2018, DTM in 2019, Agile and President Distinguished Area Director 1920, 5th ranked division in the world as the Division Director 2021, District 41 finalist for Table Topics and semi-finalist for Evaluation 2022, District 124 champion in Humorous Speech and second runner-ups in Table Topics and Evaluation 2023. He works for Caterpillar Incorporation as a solutions marketing consultant, Asia Pacific and China region. He works beyond and Toastmasters recognized as top 100 budding podcasters by Anchor and Spotify in 2021. His podcast, Binge Beyond the Box, has featured in the top 20 of Apple Podcasts, TV and films for multiple times in the last 2 years. Top 250 out of 211,000 participants in Super Speaker Season 2, India's first public speaking reality show. He has traveled around 20 plus countries across 3 continents and visited almost all states in India. With a huge round of applause, I welcome our second panelist, DTM Avishek Mitra. Now the most important. Apologies. District 83, Humorous Speech Champion, Tharindu Ameresekere. My apologies if I pronounce your name wrong. He's a senior lecturer at Postgraduate Institute of Management, SJP, specializing in finance, marketing, communication skills, sustainability, and digital disruption. Tharindu also has been coaching students for the SEMA professional qualification for over 15 years. He's also founder of award-winning digital agency, TAC, and a national public speaking champion in Toastmasters, being the only Toastmaster in Sri Lanka to be ranked #1 in 3 competition categories. In 2015, he won the District 82 Table Topics Championship, and in 2023, the double championship in humorous speaking and international speech contest. He also hosted the weekend business talk show, Biznomics, on TV1. His publications in academia has been recognized in the AIB South Asian Conference 2022, hosted by the Indian Institute of Management, the Global Winter Business Conference in France, and the World Education Summit in Malaysia. Tharindu has obtained his first degree in computer science with honors from University of Staffordshire and his MBA in marketing from University of Columbia, and his master's in project management from the University of Southern Queensland, Australia. He has also completed the SEMA Management Accounting qualification as well as the PQHRM qualification from CIPM, and is also a certified NLP coach from the American Board of NLP. Tharindu, was there something that was not done by you or by our other panelists? I feel I'm so, just ant-sized human being on this planet Earth. What am I doing even? Oh. Now comes the panel. The man who makes women blush. The ladies' man. Dan Magill himself. So why so serious? I've never seen you so serious. All right. His District 91 3 times humorous speech champion. Okay. Let's go ahead. He's a world champion of public speaking semi-finalist in the year 2022. He's 3 times Speakers Bureau Tall Tales winner and member of Connected Across Miles Toastmasters Club. So should we taking tuitions from you, Or should we just keep looking at you and having you photographed in our houses in the living room with a fake photograph of our panelists for today, Dan Magill? But there's always this beautiful three-letter word, but. Before we begin the much-awaited panel discussion, we should always know what the objectives of panel discussion are going to be. For that, I invite the evaluator for today, Milhana Anwar. Milhana Anwar, please specify the project objectives of Dan Magill.
Can you see me?
No, we are not able to see you.
Good, because I am still to switch on my camera.
It was very spooky the way you asked it.
Good evening. Give me a nice good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Only one.
Good evening.
Aw,
Good evening.
lovely, wonderful. See, I brought a smile to the ladies' man in white, Mr. Casper. Now, I should say thank you so much, Dr. Gayatri, for putting me in deep waters to evaluate the future world champion. Yes, he did bribe me with a cake and a few dollars, but that is not going to stop me from giving some cruel improvement points. I hope you do some mistakes so I can give you some improvement points. Then, so, okay, Daniel Magill is on his pathways presentation mastery, which is level 5 from the elective project, moderate a panel discussion. The purpose of the project is for him to apply his skills as a public speaker and leader to facilitate a panel discussion. Okay, we have some lovely gentlemen over here. So I will be focusing on you, Dan. Don't worry. Over to you, MC.
Thank you. For the benefit of the members here, she is last year's Humorous speech champion from District 82. Milhana, girl power. Thank you for being the evaluator of the day. Before I pass on the dance to the ladies' man, Dan Magill, I'd like to tell the audience that is his first time he's being the panel moderator. Someone who has always been on the receiving end. His first time going to question everybody with his fierce, irony, and magnetic questions. Over to you, Dan Magill.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Milhana, for the evaluation that's to come. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm really happy to be here. I don't think I've ever been in a room with so many champions. It's possibly a little bit dangerous. We'll see how it goes. We have a thing. I'm in London at the moment, and here in the UK we have a thing with the royal family where not too many of them are allowed to go on a flight, the same flight with each other, in case the plane crashes and we lose too many of them. And let's just hope nothing goes wrong in this meeting today, because how many egos would we lose if this Zoom room was to go down today? It would be disastrous for Toastmasters. And of course, as we all know, the biggest ego in the room that we would lose is not a humorous champion. It's our very own Gayatri Deshmukh. So thank you for organising this event today, Gayatri. She's not the biggest ego. She's taken a back seat in this. Very impressive. Okay, before we get into the panel discussion itself, as we've already seen, we've got 3 great champions. We've got our District 82 champion, TA, Humorous speech champion, District 125, Joe, and District, we've got 124, Avishek. But also, as we've just mentioned, Milhana is here. She is last year's District 82 Humorous speech champion. And I'm not sure it's going to be fair for us 4 men to sit around discussing humour for the next half hour, whilst our female champion just sits making notes and reporting back at the end. So, Milhana, all I'm saying is be ready to be brought into the conversation now and again. We might need you along the way. Okay, are we going to spotlight our panelists? Have we already done that and I can't see maybe? Anyway, whatever. I'll leave that to the Zoom person. But one last thing before we do get into the questions. Now, I only found out that I was going to be hosting this event this morning when I logged into Facebook and I saw that Gayatri had made a lovely poster with my face on it. I had no idea. So I've got no questions at all. But luckily, I was interviewed myself as a humorous speech champion last week by Milhana Anbar, our evaluator today. So I've literally just written down all the questions she asked me last week, and I'm going to ask them to our panelists. I think most of them will work. So let's get into it. Just remember, these questions didn't come from me. Okay, question one, and I can't see the panelists, so let's start with TA maybe. Question one, how does it feel to be the funniest man in the UK? Now, I know that these won't necessarily translate, but let's say, how did it feel to win the humorous speech contest this year? How did it feel? What were your highlights?
To be honest, Dan, I was wondering when you said funniest man in the UK, I was like, when did Mr. Bean retire? But who has been a great inspiration to me, to be very honest. But to me, it's been a journey of around, roughly around, I would say 7 years. The first time I tried humorous speaking was back in 2015, so it's 8 years actually. And I'm somebody who gave up humorous speaking, thinking I really can't do humor, planned humor for 7 minutes. You know, I'm quite good with my one-liners. I'm a huge fan of, you being from the UK would be familiar with Gary Dearly. So I'm a huge fan of one-liners, but planned humor was not my thing. I actually got into it quite by accident in 2020 when we went online. And I remember in my international speech contest at the division level, I came second place. And I was told you need to get your lighting right. That's your problem. So in that case, I knew I had to go and test out my lighting, and I thought I'll use the humorous speech contest because that was the next season. And in that, for some reason, I was second place in club and area, and come the division, I managed to win. I'm one of those guys, if I get a whiff of victory, I really go after it. There's nothing stopping me. So then I kept competing. About 2 years, I didn't even get placed. I remember 2022, I came second to Milhana. I was second and she was first. But you know, the funny thing about Toastmasters is that after a day of coming second at a district final, the reality kicks in that the next time you have to start all the way from the beginning. But to me, that journey, you know, coming to the end was a huge relief, I would say, knowing that all the efforts have paid off. I don't have to do this again next year. But at the same time, it's something which is difficult to describe. Some things in life you need to experience. And for me, this was one such moment, but massive relief. And one of those moments, I'm a huge self-critic, but one of those moments where I put a tap on my back and said, well done.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. And I agree. I think the move from kind of one-liners or table topics to planned humor is such a big one. It's difficult, and I think when an audience know that it's planned and it's written, they're less likely to laugh, so it makes it more of a challenge. But yeah, definitely. Just
to add that, I know, like for me, I actually wore a gown, like a hospital gown, and did the speech because my speech was about something that happened in the hospital. I remember at a division level, I saw one of the winners wearing like a lady's night dress and speaking, and somebody said, "Bro, if you are to beat that, you better wear a gown and go and do a speech." And I asked myself, why can't I wear a gown? When do men wear a gown? One of the few things was in a hospital before surgery. So my speech was about an incident in a hospital, coming back to life after a surgery, and I was dressed up in a gown to do that. And I got a gown made for myself because being a plus guy, general hospital gowns didn't fit me.
I think that's a lesson for us all. Why can't you wear a gown? Plagiarism, maybe, who knows? Anyway, let's go to Avishek. What were your highlights? And I'm not talking about your hair, your wonderful hair.
Thank you, Dan, for the compliment. Not everyone can have a hair like this, right? You need to pay to the, salon and get you, I don't know what they call it, silver gray or something. But before that, I have a question to ask. Was this a nice, cute setup? It feels like a parent doing the homework of a kid the night before, like Milhana putting the questions for you, for us, and you are making the edits, I'm hoping. So that felt nice. Anyway, after winning the contest, I was confident of giving my best, but it was after the results were announced, I'm like, finally I have made that upgrade from being funny on chat, on your Instagram DMs, WhatsApp and iMessages, from just being the guy who chooses the proper meme for the conversation to actually speaking properly on stage to make people laugh. So that was the first feeling that came to my mind. But it was a good feeling. My journey was also quite long. Like Tia mentioned, it was a long journey of 8 months, because this is the first time I attempted my humorous speech contest. However, the journey before this was interesting. So my second path in my pathways journey was engaging humor. I don't know what came upon me that I decided to choose that. I think it was recently introduced. This was in 2019-20. The path was recently introduced. And while I delivered projects from there, about 15-20 people laughed at my speeches, 15-20 people over the entire path, not for one speech. So that was the output. And I decided not to get into humorous speeches at all after that. But I think a big difference that I have seen, and this is a message for everyone here, is that this is why contests are important in Toastmasters, because you get laser focused towards one goal and you improve in that significantly, whether you win a trophy at the end or not. So I think that's a big thing. I didn't learn in my engaging humor path journey as much as I learned in the last 8 or 9 months when I was competing from club to district. So that would be my message here. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's you can do the humorous pathway and there's plenty to learn, but until you're actually doing it and you're in a contest situation needing those laps, 15 to 20 though over the entire run, I'd be happy with that. I don't think I could afford to pay for that many laps, but well done. That's good. Okay, Joe, your highlights, and obviously I'm not talking about your hair.
Dan, I was expecting you to comment on my beautiful hair too. That's okay. Because that was my humorous speech theme. So it was about hair loss. And if TA had to wear a lady's gown, I wore a lady's wig for the speech. Couple of learnings in this process, just like Avishek or TA mentioned, it wasn't a overnight success or an overnight victory. It was a journey. There were more losses than wins. So every time you win, you come back with a better speech. We always, it's a message for all of us. It could be a winning or a losing speech, but we never become a bad speaker, right? We just need to come back with a better speech. So that is what I worked on, came back with a better speech and eventually won after a few years. And in this entire journey, after that victory, what I cherished a lot was, of course, on that day of victory, there were a lot of them who came and appreciated you and said it was hilarious, it was so funny, I enjoyed your speech, it was entertaining. But the moment which I cherished a lot was on the same day where we had international speech contest also, there was a Toastmaster who came to me and said, your speech was inspiring. It made me think, wow, humorous speech can inspire you. Okay. Yes. He said, like, I would like to try these. I am not naturally a humorous person. So whatever you tried on the stage, probably next time when I participate in a humorous speech, I would like to try. You inspired me to participate in the humorous speech next time. So often we say that winning is not important, participation is important, but I would say winning is important, otherwise we'll not have contests in Toastmasters, right? Winning is important, for which participation is more important. So go participate so that you'll eventually win. Over to you, Dad.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's a humorous speech that we're given, and there still needs to be some value there, or it's good if there's some value there for the audience and a message they can take, and if they're inspired, even better. So yeah, well done. saying that your list of failures are longer than your list of successes. Let's hope nobody ever reads the failures out, because it took us 15 minutes at the start just to get through all the awards. Anyway, okay, let's bring Milhana in for a second. I'll change the question slightly for you, Milhana. How does it feel to no longer be a champion?
Wonderful. I don't have to try anymore, because I am a sore loser. Whenever I lose, I'm like, oh, why did I lose? You know my story, Dan. See, when I joined Toastmasters, I always thought I was a failure. Though I knew there was something inside me, I just knew it wasn't going to work. So when I participated in the club level, I wasn't expecting to win, though I really badly wanted to win. And when I won, I was like, yeah, I'm the world champion. Now, I did not know at this point there was another level I had to go compete with. So I told everybody at home, look, I'm the world champion. Now you have to respect me. I have proved myself, till I got a phone call from the club president saying, Milhana, I hope you're ready for the next level. I'm like, what level? There is no other levels. I am not coming. And she said, no, there's an area level where the winner has to represent the club. I said, really? And I blocked the entire exco team and I flew away from the country and I escaped. I forgot to, I know a lot of people know this story, but since some of you don't, so I blocked my entire exco team and I was having the time of my life there, telling myself, no levels, I don't need any levels, I am a champion. And then suddenly my daughter, she calls and she's like, Ma, you have a contest coming up. Please come back. I'm like, since when did you have this love for Toastmasters? You go play with your friends. Leave me alone. She was like, no, you are being a bad example. Come back. This, that. And she started emotionally blackmailing me. So I knew even if I ran away from the Toastmasters, I cannot run from my kid. So I said, okay, fine, I'll come back and whack you later, but let me go face the next level. So when I went to the area level and I won, that was a turning point. That was when I realized, oh, I have been running all these days thinking I cannot do it, but finally there is something in me. So that is how I started working on myself, just convincing myself I can do it. So when I went up to the division, now area, okay, now the division, there I was eagerly waiting to contest, and then this guy comes up to me. Now I look innocent, I know, and then he maybe thought this woman probably doesn't have a mouth to speak, because I was seated like a good girl. And he was like, what are you doing here? I said, I am contesting. And he was like, can you even speak? Now that triggered me. I'm like, you have to see me speak. And then the moment I got onto the stage, now this was a division contest, there are around 400 to 600 in the audience. I put on my mic, and as I uttered my first word, guess what happened? My mic stopped working. And I'm like, does this have to happen to me? Why am I not God's favorite child? Then that guy came to my mind. Can you even speak? And now I had to show him that I can speak. So I screamed on top of my lungs and I gave my speech, and boom, I won again. So these are the tiny incidents that made me want to speak more, kept telling me, no, Milhana, there is something in you. You better open your mouth and speak. So all these experiences, going through all this, and another time when it was happening online, I got locked in my own room. I was the next speaker. I was like, somebody open the door. I need to go and win. So see, these things, all the ups and downs I went through finally paid off. So you know how I feel, Dan. So finally, I don't have to go through any of this unless I'm contesting for the world level, for international speech, that I have to think about. Over to you.
Thank you, Milhana. And I do know how you feel. And it was an incorrect question saying, how does it feel not to be a champion anymore? Because of course, once we've won a contest, we're always a champion. But I also know how particularly the humorous speaking champions are. If they haven't got the current year on the end of one of their achievements, it doesn't count. Okay, let's get into...
Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to add, being from Sri Lanka, I must say, Milhana is still very much a champion to all of us here in Sri Lanka.
Of course she is. Yes.
I will send you a cake very soon. But whenever I'm introduced, they introduce me as the most mischievous speaker of District 82. So be aware.
That's true.
Who won, maybe just a show of hands from the four of you for a minute, who won their contest, let's say the district final online? Did anyone compete online? Okay, so Milhana and Avishek, and then so the other two were in person. I thought we could maybe just speak about that for a minute. So like for you personally, do you prefer online? Do you prefer in person? Why? How was that experience? Maybe you had to change during the contest from one to the other, and how did that go? So let's discuss that for a minute. I think I saw your speech, Joe. I saw her speech, which was fabulous. So let's start with you.
So for me, till division, it was online, and for the district contest, it was in person. So that same division thing, I had a different speech for club and area. And for division, it was a different speech. And for district, it was another. So it was 4 different speeches at every level. So at the division level, though the speech was related to what I did in division and district, so the props were same. So it was slightly different, but the props that wig were same. So in an online meeting, so right now, if I'm speaking, the wig is right there next to my hand. Just when I need it, bang, I bring in the wig, right? It becomes like a surprise element I introduce. Like, so till then, they don't even get to see what is around me. Versus if it's an in-person contest, so I had to keep a table, and then there is a mystery box, and inside the box, there is this wig, so that nobody gets to see that wig till the moment I introduce. Wig is almost like a character in my speech. So till I introduce the character, nobody gets to see that inside that box. Versus when it's online, I can keep it ready. It is right in my hand or next to my laptop whenever I need it, like, or the moment when I need it, I just introduce it. So imagine right now, I just take the wig and wear it, right? Just at that moment, you get to see a different version of a Joe. Joe becomes a Joey, right? In just a fraction of a second. So that is something which we need to work on, how in person, how we will make sure that if we are using a prop, or if there is something which we need to do. And of course, in online, the biggest or the heartbreaking moment is you don't get to see the audience laugh, right? Or forget seeing. So you can't hear them laugh. So online contest, we just need to close our eyes and believe that everybody in the room is literally rolling on the floor and laughing for your jokes. In fact, they rolled so much that they fell from the first floor to the ground floor. That's how you got to believe and just deliver the speech. In-person contest, you get to see, it is the laughter moments, right? Every moment they laugh, it motivates you, that laughter, that clapping moments, that pushes you to do even more. You know that you're entertaining your audience. So we will have to just keep in all these factors. One more point here, like when I prepared my speech, like initially it was like around close to 7 minutes, 5 minutes and 53 seconds. I anticipated a few moments where there will be a good amount of laughter. So then what I did was like I cut down my speech a little more, brought it to 6 minutes and 20 or 25 seconds. And on that day, when the winning speech happened, it went on to around 7 minutes and 10 seconds. So when I actually looked back at the video of the speech, it's close to around more than around 1 minute of just laughter in that 7 minutes. So that is also something which you can't account for. Like in an online meeting, you don't need to wait for that laughter moments. You can just move on. Probably just give a fraction of a second for audience to think and cherish your jokes. But in an in-person contest, when audience are laughing, we often have this doubt, right? So or a fear that what if audience don't laugh? And when they're laughing, don't rush with your speech. Give them that moment. Enjoy that moment. Let them laugh. Give that 2-3 seconds for them to laugh, and then move on to the next line. Because otherwise, what would happen is your first few words of the next line would be missed out. Like it would overlap with the laughter, And there are moments where the audience might also end their laughter a little too quickly because they see that you're rushing to the next line. So they might stop their laughter. So give them that moment to laugh when there is a laughter moment, allow them to laugh and then move on to the next line. So a couple of these tips and tricks for online and in-person contest. Over to that.
Thank you. Yeah, good points. I can't believe your speech increased by a minute when you got laughter. Mine, when I went from online to in person, mine actually went down by a minute. So well done. But I saw your speech. I watched it the other day, and it was very funny. But the things you mentioned then were a couple of the things that stood out. I thought that the pause you gave when the audience were laughing was really well done, really natural, and gave them the time to laugh, and you let that happen, and that's an important thing. If you step on the laughter, it's it stops. But also the props, I thought, so I didn't know you'd given it online or whether you did give it online. I think you said it was a different speech each time. But as you say, the surprise prop online where you can have it out of shot and suddenly throw the wig on. By the way, Joe, I saw somebody in the chat ask if you can wear the wig, so that would be nice. You can go and dig that out now.
Right now,
I think the surprise of suddenly bringing a prop out online is great and really effective. And then if you're thinking about how to do that in person, you think, oh, well, I'll have a table, but the wig will be on the table and everyone will be able to see it and it won't be as fun. So I thought what you did with the box, having the box, and the box almost became a joke in itself in that different things were coming out of it. So I think thinking about the difference online, particularly with props, is important, and you did it really well. Let's go to somebody who did compete and win online then. So Avishek.
Dan, thanks for the question. Before that, I would like to see a show of hands for those who are seriously competing for humorous speech contest this year from any district, and they just a show of hands. I can see Vaibhavi. I can't see my protege raising her hand yet, so I need to have a conversation with her later, I feel. Okay, thank you. I can see a few of you. Yeah. So there is a tip or an advice included in my answer. So please, those who are serious, please listen to this carefully. So Dan, I think it was a heartbreak moment for me because I competed in contests for 2 years. This was my second year competing, and humorous contest was not a part in our district that time. We had 3 contests, table topics evaluation and international speech contest. So come this year, I mean the last contest season, I was looking forward to go on stage at the district level because from club to division, it was virtual. But the district level was supposed to be, I mean, the hybrid option was there and I was in the city. So I definitely was looking forward to go there and perform on stage. About 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the contest, I got to know I have to travel overseas in Europe actually. And about 2.5 weeks before the contest, it was confirmed that I have to travel. There's no other option. There's no other choice to weasel out of it. It's an office trip. So for the last 3-4 weeks before the contest, because I was mentally prepared to deliver it only on stage, I thought that this would be I was disheartened and I was, upset about it. Secondly, I was worried about another thing and the thought struck my mind that I have 3 kinds of audience to cater now. I mean, 3 kind of audience in the sense that I'm not delivering there. So I need to take care of delivering the speech virtually, delivering the speech in front of people and taking feedback from them in both aspects, or maybe delivering the speech in a hybrid session, but in person. So I tried out all the combinations. I practiced the speech 17 times in those 3-4 weeks in different settings. I changed my speech slightly. I changed my punchlines and I saw reaction in various ways. So I shamelessly approached all the VP heads in our city, especially those who had hybrid setups, so that I could try out and check. And then I delivered it outside our district also just to test it out in other districts. So that frantic method, I think, actually worked, because the point that Joe was mentioning, that it's very difficult to understand, especially in a virtual session, when there is a in-person audience, it's difficult to understand where they're laughing. You might be speaking over their laugh. Since I practiced it so many times just before the district contest, I had an inkling of where people are going to laugh for longer, because I had, taken that feedback. from the audience also, apart from the evaluators, that which jokes appeal to you the most? Where did you laugh the hardest? Where I could not see the audience. So I had that and I paced and timed my speech accordingly. But the regret stays in my mind, in my heart, that I couldn't hear the reaction on stage, and I missed that. But I got a lot of texts immediately after my speech ended, so that kind of made my day that day. So anyone from District 124 who was present there can confirm how they felt. But yeah, I couldn't witness it myself.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something I'm not sure I've really thought about whether I've had that experience yet. But there are kind of three different types of audience, aren't there? There's the audience in the room where you're in the room. There's an audience online, and then there's an audience in the room when you're online, and they're all different things to prepare for. So yeah, that's an interesting angle on it. Joe, I just saw was it your comment saying that you're at the airport? So you can maybe confirm, are the chips more expensive?
This 1 hour, I'm only thinking about food for thought, no food.
Okay. Right, let's have another question. So this question I think is important. I hope your answers are good on this one, because I think it's important to people that maybe haven't competed before and are maybe a bit worried about having to be funny as such. And so let's go with TA. What would you say the difference is between a humorous speech and stand-up comedy? And do you think that as Toastmasters we need to be almost stand-up comedians to enter a humorous speech contest?
It's a very borderline thing, but one difference between stand-up comedy and humorous speaking in Toastmasters, one word: classy. In Toastmasters humorous speeches, it's classy humor. We don't insult, we avoid the swear language. It's a lot of restrictions. It's more like gentleman's humor, something you could go and say to the Queen or King of England and make them laugh probably. Whereas in the case of stand-up comedy, I'm a huge fan. I watch it, I don't miss. I wanted to go and watch Milhana's one, but she was wearing a boxing glove in the promo video, and I'm like, no, I know I'm going to get the punch, so I didn't do that. But I think stand-up comedy is good to understand. Some of the punchlines, some of the stories I used, I got it from stand-up comedy. But I think stand-up comedy is a bunch of interrelated events without a key message. In humorous speaking in Toastmasters, you need a message. You need to give classy humor, borderline, mind you. And I've said things which are extremely borderline. Like I spoke about a doctor who came and wanted to inspect my behind and put the two fingers and asked, because the doctor was a friend of mine, and he asked, how's your father? And I said, that's the closest that's the closest ever I've been to who's your daddy. But the main thing is that it's about giving that classy humor without insulting anybody, because we go to great length to make sure we don't insult anyone. For example, in my speech, at the end, to add some humor, I added there, now I'm okay after the surgery, and the doctor comes again and asks me, so if everything okay, so how's your father? Again. But I wanted to end it by looking at the contest master and saying, contest master, how's your father? But then it struck me, what if his father's sick? What if his father's dead? What if the relationship with him and his father is not good? So as Toastmasters, we go to that extent to make sure we are not insulting anybody, we are not making anybody uncomfortable, yet we are having fun. So I think the key difference is of course you have a message, but Toastmaster humor is classy humor, class.
Like it. Great answer. Thank you. I think, yes, humorous speeches in general are all about putting an image in the audience's mind. And can I just apologize to the audience for the image that we got in our mind during that answer? But it was an excellent answer all the same. Milhana, so it turns out you've done some stand-up comedy. What would you say the differences are?
I totally agree with TA, because I always believe that Toastmasters have certain restrictions where we have to adhere. So what I believe is, as a Toastmaster, we have to know our grounds, our rules. In stand-up comedy, you can just crack jokes, and you can just, even if it is a bit offensive, the main concept there is to make the audience laugh. But in Toastmasters, you have to be really careful with what you have to say or what you do. So in that context, I am very careful. Like, I make sure most of my comics are about me and not about anybody else, of course, with a take-home message where I could inspire the audience, and there is an impact of what I'm trying to say to whoever is listening. Now, my speech was about me faking a father, which is a true story. Like I said, I've been a very rebellious child when I was pretty young. My father refused to attend our parents' meeting. So, and I was warned by my principal that if the dad does not come, I will be expelled. So now I had to make a father or produce a father as soon as possible. So I was thinking, how do I do this? So I had my partner in crime, my brother. So we coupled up, we came with a brilliant idea where we found a father, a fake father. Now I had to put this context very carefully where I do not demean anyone and I have a proper message behind this. So the message was like, how many more lies do you make up to cover up one single lie? Because there was a time that I almost got caught from my principal, because she kind of found the guy who was representing my father on the road begging. So she was confused. So I had to bring up another lie. So based on that, now humorous speech again on Toastmasters has a lot of class. You have to have a lot of professionalism, and there is standards, restrictions. So you have to be very careful. Now in stand-up comedy, I can use certain very certain language which we are not allowed to use in a platform here. So yes, I hope you understand, and I hope I don't put myself in trouble. Over to you.
Thank you. Turns out District 82, is it, has got some daddy issues by the sound of it, but well done, both of you. Okay. So last year, I got to go to Nashville for the World Championships, and while I was there, I saw, so they have 4 semi-finals with 7 people in each semi-final, so 28 speeches there, and then another 7 in the final, so 35 speeches overall. Now, even though they all had a serious message, they were all, you know, inspirational, motivational speeches, I think all 35 speeches would have had a very good chance of winning a district humorous speech contest. So I suppose this answer is for people that maybe don't want to enter a humorous contest, but maybe we could talk a bit about how important humor is just in general in any speech that you're giving. Do you all try and use humor in the more serious speeches? How important do you think it is, and how do you go about doing it? Let's start with Avishek.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. I think it's very important. One of the reasons why I chose engaging humor as my second path was also because of this, because if you are really, my policy is that if you're really uncomfortable with something, unless it's an issue of aligning with your values, please go ahead and try that. So that's the best way to go about it. And I totally agree. I think humor is not only the most visible emotion in an audience, but it's also the most, I would say, the strongest connection building exercise. And I think I found your previous question interesting also. To connect back with that, I think the reason why stand-up comedians are so popular and they just come and do one-act shows, I would say, they come there, they don't have anything, in most cases, no props, they just have their mic stand and, you know, the mic itself, is because they connect with their stories. The problem is, in our generation or in the current times, we mostly get to see on TikTok or on Reels the portions that are cut and sensitized, which are either with expletives or just the punchline and the setup and the punchline quickly, it's shown like that. But if you see a whole act of a really classy stand-up comedian, you will actually get to see the entire story building. You will see callbacks, maybe some social messaging, a lot of things are packed into it. So there are a lot of things to learn from there too, and then adapt it according to Toastmasters. I think one big difference, if you ask me, one-liner answer is a stand-up comedian. I mean, a humorous speech has a ballot, and a stand-up comedian doesn't have to follow the ballot. So that's one point of it. And just an advice to everyone who is attempting, please go to your reaction button on the Zoom chat, click on it. How many icons or emoticons do you see? 5, 6, right? Except that raise hand emoticon, you are actually supposed to have all those emoticons, at least according to me, in your speech, even if it's a humorous speech. Connection doesn't only mean making them go gaga and laugh, get huge laughters. It can be being surprised or shocked at a line, connecting with a line, that's the heart reaction, or clapping at something. So I think all emotions coming together in a speech is what makes it special. So that's how it is. And I totally agree with you, Dan, just following your point. I advised one of my friends who actually went on to become the international speech champion at the district level that why don't you try and humorous speech contest, even if you are not a good humorous speaker or that's not your aim, because you can improve the humor side for your ISC speech also, because that's also important. Like you just mentioned that all the 28 speeches that you heard were also would have been suitable for a district contest for humorous speech contest. So I think that's also important. Yep. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. I think yeah, it's Toastmasters, we're here to learn and to get experiences that we then maybe will take out into the world of stand-up comedy or wherever we go, but it is about getting that experience. And in a way, there's no harder experience but no better one than to try and tell jokes and nobody laugh. I mean, so what? Go and try it, and then you've had that experience, and then it's a real raw reaction, but put yourself through it and you'll improve. Okay. Oh, also, I was going to say, if anyone, Avishek mentioned the emoticons that match the speech. If anyone can come up with a good one for TA's story at the doctor's, a good emoticon that will match that, we'd love to see it. Please put them up. Gayatri, straight into action there. Okay. I've got. Has anyone else got anything to say on that question about kind of putting humor into every speech?
Yep. Dan, I would like to add. With a loud cry, a baby was born on January 21st. Big eyes, chubby cheeks, long hair. Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters and friends. And that cute little baby was my cousin, not me. You should have guessed it at least when I said a lot of hair. This was my opening for my icebreaker speech. What I wanted to say was, we shouldn't wait for that auspicious month of August and September to overnight suddenly to become humorous. We should use Toastmasters as such a wonderful platform that every single meeting we could actually try. Not necessarily even a speech. It can be your timer role. It can be our counter grammarian. You could try to inject a bit of humor into it, right? So that adds more fun to that meeting, and also you get to test your humor. Many of us have this, again, doubt in our mind that will my jokes work? What kind of a jokes actually works for me? You have Toastmasters meeting every week. You can actually attempt it. Let every speech has a little bit of humor in your speech, and let every role you can actually try. It's okay. It doesn't work. It's okay. Just like any other speech, right? Or just like anything else, try to have at least a 10% of humor. Of course, for a humorous speech contest, you got to double it, or in fact make it as many jokes as you can, but don't wait for that August and September to try it throughout the year, every Toastmasters meeting.
Thank you. Very inspirational and very true. Okay, we're on red. I've got one more question, and then have we got time for audience questions as well? Is that good? Yeah,
We have 10 minutes for audience questions from now.
okay, well, I've got one more question first, because this is an important one. Who's funnier, men or women? Let's start with TA.
Women.
Good answer. One word, all we need. And
they can't help it by default. Not that they're doing anything special. And it's women. I just got married 2 weeks ago. I can guarantee and say it's women.
Thank you. Joe.
Women are funny, but then when we are smart to use women as a character in a speech and win the contest. That's it.
Are we going to get a different answer from Abhishek?
No. Women are the mother of all jokers, so of course women. No doubt.
Okay, and I've been trying to keep her busy so that she can't evaluate me very effectively, but let's get an answer on that one from Milhana.
Tricky. See, men, you are the trickiest people. See, you give us all the jokes to speak. So yes, I believe men give us the content to make it funny. I hope that makes sense. I don't know, actually. I think both of us are funny. The things that we do, it's a balance.
So Milhana, the person who does the act is funny or the person who narrates it? So that you have to clarify.
So we can put it this way: behind every humorous winning women, there is a man.
Was there a man? Yes.
Men give us the content to make things funny. I think that's the most backhanded insult I've ever heard. So well done, Milhana. That's great. Okay, let's get some audience questions then. If you want to put your hand up, we can get you. I think we can unmute you and let you ask the question. If you want to write it in the chat, that's great as well. Maybe tell us if there's a particular panelist that you'd like to hear the answer from. Come on, otherwise I'll have to go back to Milhana's question and then I'm running out. I mean, we've got who do you think you are? Why did you block me after our first date? Things that I can't ask panelists.
We have Ritesh raising his hand.
Ritesh, brilliant, thank you. Go, off you go.
Yeah, Dan, my question is for you. When we look at humorous speech, should we put in one joke or two jokes every minute throughout the speech? Or should we start off gradually, take it to a peak, a climax, and then slowly end the humorous speech?
Thank you. Well, I'm not officially a panelist. I'll answer it quickly and then we'll pass it on to one of the panelists. For me, if it's a serious speech, if it's an inspirational one, there'll be a heart of the story that will be something quite emotional, maybe that will build up to it. And in a humorous speech, I'll have a heart of the story, which for me will be the funniest bit, the bit where the audience are going to laugh the most. And that will be somewhere in the middle of the speech as well. And I'll build up to it. And then I might move away from it, kind of come back down with the message and then maybe finish with a laugh as well. I hate rules with speeches. I hate, you have to have five laughs a minute or whatever. I wouldn't worry about things like that. Just for me, it's about making it naturally funny. And, if you get one huge laugh right in the middle of your speech and not a lot else, you could still have the best speech in a contest easily. So that would be my opinion. But let's ask one of the panelists. Let's go with, is TA still here? Lost him. Okay, let's go. TA's there.
Ritesh, if I can just have that question. Sorry, I think I lost you for a bit there. If I can just have the question, Dan.
Sure, TA. TA, when we look at humorous speeches, my question was, do we balance out the humor every minute of the speech, or should we gradually start off with a light humor, take it to a peak or a climax, and then slowly close it down?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of going soft at the end, to be honest. I guess that applies to different domains. But if you ask me, my policy is, and this is something that my club support team, I have a whole load of supporters from my own club. Toastmaster Clive is one of them. And one thing that he always told me was, don't let the audience feel, hey, wait a minute, we didn't laugh for some time. So every time the effect of the previous humor is about to die off, you hit it again, like Gillette keeping on giving like 3 blades, 4 blades, 5 blades, and 6 blades, cut your neck off, not just the beard. So you basically keep, you make sure that the audience doesn't feel, hey, we didn't laugh for some time. As long as you can avoid that thought creeping in, you're good.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. What about you, Ritesh? Have you given a humorous speech yet?
Yes, I just gave one at my club level and I won the first award. So looking forward to the next level.
Excellent. Well done.
Right, all start.
thanks to all of you. I have been following each one of you somewhere on Insta, somewhere on YouTube. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you.
Thank you. Great that you're here. Anyone else with a question? Otherwise, we can get the same answer from other panelists, but hopefully we've got some other questions.
We have a few questions asked in the chat.
Oh, I'll let you read them, Gayatri. I can't see it. Go on.
Yes, there are these questions from Diane. She's asking, how do you prepare? How do you find inspiration? And we have Lasantha asking, how do we customize the humor according to the audience?
Okay, let's go with the where do you find inspiration? I suppose where do you find your stories first? And let's start with Joe.
Inspiration, just if your video is on, you can just look on your screen. Inspiration is right in front of you. Because that's also one difference between stand-up comedy and humorous speech contest, right? So where mostly in stand-up comedy, the fun is poked at others, where the best form of fun or humor in Toastmasters is a self-deprecating humor, right? I calling someone bald in the audience, they might get offended, versus me talking all about my bald head. So everybody is going to laugh, they're going to have fun because I'm putting myself down. Just like what we do, right? I share this in a lot of these occasions. Do you remember our school days, like when one of our friends just falls down? What do? Our first instant reaction is to laugh, right? And then we might give a helping hand. So same on the stage, when you put yourselves down, audience will go up for you, cheering up for you, clapping for you. So let it be self-deprecating humor. They will enjoy. They will have fun at your cost. Let them write, because that is the purpose. We want to entertain our audience, which also answers a bit of our previous question about the humor or jokes per minute. So we don't need to go so in depth in some jokes per minute, but then in that 7 minutes, how many laughter moments are we giving for the audience, right? So though it is not directly mentioned in the ballot sheet, eventually, or an unspoken rule in a humor speech contest is like there are 6 contestants, and whoever has brought the maximum laughter moment in that 7 minutes eventually will win. And so try to bring in maximum laughter moment in that 7 minutes. That is how you will win the humorous speech contest. And eventually what you're doing is entertaining your audience.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the self-deprecation one is a huge one, because people, especially these days, people really don't know what they can laugh at, and they might find something funny but think, no, that's about someone else. I'm not going to laugh at that. I mean, you know, an example might be at the start of this session where I mentioned Avishek's highlights, and then I mentioned Joe's hair, and I'm sure a few of you thought, oh, are they okay with that? Now, what you don't know is I was on the phone to both of them last night, checking that they were okay with those jokes.
He was.
Yeah. He was, thank you. But when you do it about yourself, so when in Joe's speech he does it about himself, we know we can laugh. He's joking about himself. He's obviously fine with it. We can laugh. And that was another thing I wanted to mention earlier. I've only seen Joe's and Joe and Milhana's speech. So I don't know who in the audience has seen what speeches. So if any of you panelists have got links to your speeches, please put them in the chat or send them out somehow so that we can all see them, because we've been speaking so much about them. It would be great to be able to see them. Okay, any more questions?
We have 2 more questions. We have a question from Diane, who is asking, what do you do with failure? And there's another question from Abhishek Mohta, who's asking whether you need to fill the entire speech with small jokes, like full of jokes.
Avishek, probably a difficult one for you, but what do you do with failure?
Yeah, no, that's I think I have a good answer for that, and I'll refer to you, Dan. So Dan, what you do with a failure is that you turn your failure into a humorous speech. Okay, so that's one. And I remember this because Dan gave a speech, which I believe was the district final speech, or I don't remember that exactly, but which was about you sleeping off and not evaluating the speech properly. So that would have been a failure for that day when it happened in the Toastmasters meeting, or an issue for that day rather, but it was turned into a contest winning speech. So the problem is that we see our low moments as low moments itself, but we don't realize that we can turn them into opportunities later. That also fits in the bracket of self-deprecation or any bracket that you want to put into. And see, people do not, the audience doesn't only laugh at your well thought out, cleverly thought out punchlines. They also laugh when they find something relatable. And failure is one thing that is relatable for everyone, or anything that you see that is observational or situational would be relatable to the audience if you choose it correctly. So that's how it is. Yep. That's the first question. Second question, I'm not sure if you want me to answer. I'll decide, let you decide, Dan.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay, full of jokes, or should it be narrated in a way that is humorous? I think it's a combination of both. It depends on how you tell your jokes. Sometimes it can be set up punchline. Sometimes it can be a surprise that no one saw coming. Sometimes it can be something that the audience was not at all expecting. You pull up a prop like Joe was mentioning. So you can make it a combination of various things. But I agree that the narration has to be appropriate to that line. And you have to set that tone in the beginning. So maybe you have two characters. One character is delivering punchlines, but that person, she is having deadpan humor. So that can also be an expression. So you have to decide on how you narrate. That's a very important part, not only for making the audience laugh, but also on the ballot. So it has to go hand in hand. That would be my answer. But it should not be a string of jokes and just that, because then that's not what we're looking for in a humorous speech contest. That would be my answer.
Thank you. Really important one on the the bad things that happen to us as sources for humorous speeches. Definitely agree. And that example you gave where I fell asleep during an online speech and had to give an evaluation immediately afterwards, and it was horrible. It was a horrible feeling, and a year later it's a humorous speech, and who knows how many hours Joe's spent crying himself to sleep about his hair, but he's turned it into a humorous speech. So well done, Joe. I'm not ignoring Milhana. I assume she's gone off to prepare her evaluation, so I'm not deliberately not asking her. And do we have time for one more question, maybe?
The timer showed the red card, and she has the last question. So we can't say no to the timer.
Let's go with that one then.
Thank you so much, Madam Sergeant at Arms. The question to the panelists is that sometimes when I sit and write the humorous speech, I feel that these questions or these lines are funny. But when I go to different clubs and deliver the same humorous speech, I find out that audience is not finding it so funny. So how do I read the room and then make changes is my question.
Okay, good one. Let's get an answer from everyone on that. Start with TA.
Yeah, good point, Sandur. Sometimes what happens is you need to understand, especially when it comes to humorous speech, the same speech when you deal with the second time, you yourself are no longer finding it funny. So that humor effect, the humor personality is not going to really be there. But what I suggest is you do some changes to the speech yourself, because when it's humor, more than the content, the way you say it, that matters a lot. Now, if you know the humor, what's coming up, you yourself might deliver it in a bit of a dull tone. As a result, they don't really feel the punch, the funny effect in it. So my advice to you, you yourself should do some changes, number one. Number two, try to figure out what the audience is. Now, I know what will make my club laugh and what will make the division laugh. It's two different things. Division is a tough crowd. You get more competitors there as well. So you keep asking that, and it all starts with you asking, if I were an audience member, and I would hear this the second time or third time, fourth time, what changes should I do so that I myself would laugh at this? That's the starting point.
Thank you. Let's go on to Joe for the proceeding point.
I have a question back for everyone, not just right there. So imagine it's a humorous speech contest. The contest chair is announcing that we are going to begin a humorous speech contest. Do you think anybody in the audience is sitting there thinking that, I will not laugh? Even if you tickle me, I will not laugh. Everybody is sitting there expecting for a laughter moment to laugh, right? So they're all geared up to laugh. So we often think the audience are not laughing. Actually, we didn't give them enough laughter moments, or maybe they were not able to relate to the jokes. So here are a couple of tips for that, or tricks for that. 90% of our audience are Toastmasters. Have some jokes related to Toastmasters. You want to share about some disappointing moment? Let's say about hair loss. Let's say my disappointment of getting growing hair on my head is so disappointing. It just feels like a grammarian where nobody uses the word of the day. Okay? Everybody in the audience would be able to relate to it. So come up with relatable jokes where everyone in the audience will do it. That's one. Second, as I mentioned earlier, it is about entertaining our audience, right? So when we find that common factor, when the story is something about something, let's say about cooking, traveling, or let's say a family, like a husband and wife, or a daughter and mother. So these are things which can be easily relatable, right? Everybody will connect to that. Somebody could deliver a speech on like how their married life is like this. Somebody could deliver a speech that how they're yet to get married, and that could be a tragedy. Like it can be just anything under the sun can be a humorous speech, but try to come up with something which can be relatable for everyone in the audience. They will definitely love because they're all sitting there geared up to laugh. So we just need to hit that spark and they will definitely love.
Thank you, Joe. And last word for Avishek.
Yeah, so Vaibhavi and to everyone else who is contesting, to understand if your audience is interacting with they are loving a particular speech and all the punchlines and jokes and everything. Simple thing is you have to go and deliver and check it. You can't assume that people are going to laugh at certain things, because that's the fun about a humorous speech or a stand-up set. You can control your material, but you can't control your audience's reaction. That's going to be organic. So my suggestion is you initially deliver it maybe in your home club, take the initial reaction, then you go and deliver it at multiple places. I know it's a little difficult to get that virtually, but especially if you're in an in-person session, irrespective of whether people are laughing or not, you can't note that because you are speaking and you're focusing on your speech, your performance. Give everyone a small chit, a small piece of paper, and tell them to note down the jokes that they laughed hard at, or they felt, or they chuckled at, which you may not be noticing, and to mention the punchlines which didn't connect with them. Okay. Also, I think making it as generic as possible and relevant to the audience there, I mean, to the common Toastmaster audience, that's a good tip that Joe gave. It's not mandatory, but you should definitely keep it related to something that will be understandable everywhere. I'll give you an example. I prepared my first version of speech, and when I was practicing it, I practiced in a club in person. I had a lot of interesting jokes and I thought they will get more laughs. But when I practiced in a club, the people laughed hardest at a joke, which was about, I related Indian soaps and the, how the drama is, it's over dramatized in Indian soaps. That was a small part. Almost everyone laughed at that joke. But I knew that this joke is not going to translate if I put it in a contest, maybe even at the club level, because the judges might be from outside India. So you have to be careful about these things, and you have to prepare something that is as generic as possible in terms of connecting with all kinds of audience. So that's very important. And getting the feedback not only from your evaluator or your mentor. For humorous speech, I think it's very important to get that note from the audience member, each of the audience members, if you can. Dan, back to you.
You wonderful answers, 3 wonderful answers. I said that Avishek would have the last word. Obviously, I'm going to have the last word on that question, just because I've got just a slightly different. It's not a different opinion. I agree with all of that, but just the question about what do we do if an audience doesn't laugh? It's kind of the eternal question of every stand-up comedian that they've ever had over history and throughout their lives. Is that sometimes jokes that go down so well with one audience, one night, one day, just won't work. And we try and fix everything, and we try and go through all these wonderful tips and tricks that we can use. And sometimes it just doesn't work. And I think it's accepting that. And, maybe if you've given the speech 5 times, then the 6th time, it's not quite so good. As long as the 5 were, I wouldn't worry too much. Just occasionally these things happen, and you just have to go on and try it again. Okay, I think that's us. But thank you to all the panelists. I thought that was a brilliant session with some amazing information. So thank you to Joe, Avishek, TA, and of course, last but not least, Malhana.
Thank you everyone. Glad to be here.
And back to our, is it our
Thank you,
Toastmaster?
everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we have a huge round of applause? I'll tell you the worst thing about an audience. Even though they know, even though they can, even though they should, they must unmute and clap. They will not. Can we just unmute ourselves and give a huge round of applause?
Woohoo!
Yay.
That's how we should encourage all the aspiring and the upcoming humorous speech champions. Thank you, Magill. Thank you, Avishek. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Tharindu. And thank you, Milana, the evaluator, the surprise element in the panel discussion, for your valuable insights. And I hope not everyone would be the joke master like I was, and everyone would be delivering brilliant, brilliant humorous speeches. Now that we have heard a lot about humorous speeches and things about failing, I would like to tell you something. So I have this knack for hearing interviews, and a very famous stand-up comedian was being interviewed, and he was asked, how much time does it take to create one stand-up? The reply was astonishing. He said, any year. And when he said that, an year it takes to create a stand-up speech, and that too coming from an experienced stand-up comedian. So even if your first speech fails, your second speech fails, know that you are a beginner and there is vast horizon waiting for you to achieve. With that, let's go towards the evaluation, since our journal evaluator has been taking down the notes and I was quietly observing her. Back to you, journal evaluator, for the row of evaluations.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. What about that panel discussion? That was fantastic, fantastic. I don't know about you, but seriously, I did 2 full pages of notes. 2 full pages of notes. I'm putting my SAS Global book to good use here. I have learned so much from our panelists from this whole meeting discussion, and it is my pleasure to introduce my team of evaluators so we can really kick our meeting proceedings up a notch every single time we show up, whether to inject humor or to self-reflect or to get to that next stage, whether it's a competition or not. With that, it's my pleasure to invite Distinguished Toastmaster, our evaluator for today, Milhana Anwar, to provide an evaluation for our panel discussion panelist. Welcome, Milhana.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Let me ask you all a question. How was it? Can somebody answer? How was the panel discussion? Especially the moderator. Let us make him a bit happy.
Edutaining.
Good. It was good.
Only good? We need more words. Decorative words.
Sometimes hilarious and sometimes so motivating.
Oh, Dan, please note that down.
Edutaining. Edutaining. Education plus entertainment. Edutaining.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, okay, you got the good points. Bye. See you. No, it was incredibly amazing. You were so tricky. The moderator was very tricky. It kept distracting me, pulling me to the panel so that I don't get to write down any improvement points. So now I have to say good things about the moderator. You did an incredibly amazing job. What fascinates me, as always, is your background. Don't you agree, my dear audience? How do you do that? I tried that and the curtain fell down and it was embarrassing. I cannot do it. I need more classes on how you cover your background. So amazing background, and the white t-shirt, as always, I call you Casper. It was very wonderful to see. There was clarity in terms of how you were. Wonderful, wonderful. And your gestures as usual. And I love how you use your hands, and you know how it kind of is very engaging. It's so nice to see your gestures. Eye contact was great. In terms of delivery, you are brilliant. Nothing to complain about it. And all the speakers were amazing. You brought down very good questions. Obviously, since it was from me, it was very good. I give you 100+ points for that. In terms of improvement, I try to see for something. So what I would suggest is then if you would have just had a small recap, maybe 2 minutes recap of their speeches and just showed it to us, the audience, then we would have a small idea of what their speech was all about. And that would have made us know, okay, this is what the wig was all about. Oh, this was all the nurse, the daddy issue was all about. So if you would have had just minor recaps videos done, since you are an incredible with your technological skills, if you would have done that, that would have been amazing. Overall, I really wish I could say something mean, but I don't have any. It was an amazing session where all of us really did enjoy, especially you being Dan. So I cannot say anything bad about you. So only thing, next time when we have a panel discussion, if we can have a recap of the champion speaker's speech, at least 2 minutes here and there, where they got more laughter and maybe the ending would have added more value to what was being discussed. Overall, you know, you are amazing, Dan. Over to you, ma'am.
Speaking of learning, I just had to turn my background black and see if Dan was working some magic or if it was just as simple as putting a black background. So there you go, Milhana. I just tried it as you were speaking. Thank you. Thank you for that succinct, constructive feedback point for our panel moderator, Dan. Dan, thank you. I made so many notes, even from how you bits and pieces of what our panelists were saying and included them in your remarks to cement the whole panel discussion together. So well done, well done. Thank you, Milhana. And with that, I'd like to invite our timer to deliver their report. And I don't know if Vandita had to step away, and Gayatri, I saw you timing. Would you be delivering the report or would it be Vandita?
I'll give the report.
Please take stage and give us your timer report. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Madam General Evaluator. Our panel discussion went a little over time. It was 10 minutes over time than what it should have been. Our evaluator was well within the time limit. She spoke for 3 minutes and 28 seconds. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Excellent. And now, welcome our Toastmaster Krishnesh.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Yes, there was a lot of events which I had to choose from. And I think the talk about the background does get me. I think the first time I got into the meeting and all I saw was this black background, and aptly named, Milhana. It is Casper indeed. He's going to be Casper for me too from now on. And I've seen enough Hollywood movies to realize that if I get up and it's a black room, fully dark, and if I see a white person, I think, am I in heaven? So that was a wow moment to start off right there. But now I'm changing the kind of movies I'm watching. So yeah, more gods. One of the initial discussions that I really liked was the take on, or the various takes on who is funnier between men and women. I love the backhand and forehand and the lobs that were being served. And there was enough sarcasm in that. I loved how most of the panelists, including Dan, kept hopping over that imaginary thin, blurry line on who's your daddy topic, ensuring that everybody on video had smiles. And we got a lot of emoticons too in that discussion. I loved Joe, if he's here, I loved that opening line in your speech about the hair or the lack of it. And me being like this, usually I tie it up, but I thought just to rub it in, I'll let my hair down. There was an ask for YouTube links to the panelists' winning speech. If we didn't get it, that is a wow moment waiting to happen. Can someone confirm we have all the links in the chat? If not, that was another one. And then we had some Gyan, which was wow moments, starting with a complete speech, humorous or not, should have something that relates to each of the default emoticons in the reactions option. 2, figure out when the audience is laughing at your lines and have pauses in your speech accordingly. 3, self-deprecating humor is the safest, so let the audience laugh at your expense. And that one line, which had an intelligent and wonderful play of words, was don't wait for the month of August to start preparing for your humorous speech contest. With that, back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
A very good feeling in the General Evaluator's heart when the wow moments include all of the summary that she hoped to evaluate and share with the team. But in any case, I am totally enjoying this. I was reflecting on what notes did Krishnesh not touch on that I could enlighten you with. And I came up with a couple. If you're ready, I'd like to share. I love how Avishek said, the most visible emotion is humor. The most rewarding connection is when we are connection forward, when some of our lines establish that connection. I loved how you put that. Of course, the daddy moments were wonderful. And I, especially during those daddy moments and throughout, as I mentioned, I loved how Dan stayed present. You see how important it is. We had many takeaways today from how present he was, where appropriate he invited Milhana, although she was an evaluator, so as to honor her achievement and credentials, but also to bring in a tip or two that could come from a different perspective. So Dan, thank you for that. I would like to invite, I think we didn't have a listener today, right, Gayatri? I did mention that at the beginning. Okay, I'd like to give my general evaluation. Make it quick, I know we are running. It start on time, the guests were welcomed, a very warm and inviting room was created for all as people joined. I almost saw 20 plus people join in the first 5-7 minutes of it. This was fantastic. Thank you for all of the PR that has gone in. I really appreciate that. The Toastmaster of the day, Vandita, you welcomed us all, sprinkling in humor, serving up anecdotes, the back and forth, all of that. Well done there. The GE team, Vaibhavi and Krishnesh, thank you for introducing your roles and working with me. And Gayatri, thank you for stepping in at the last minute to be our timer today. Milhana, you set stage with your own credentials and with how you introduced our panelists as well as our panel moderator. I did not know you were District 82 champ. Now I learned so much today, and I can't wait to befriend all of you. Dan, I hope you will accept my friend request that I just shared on Facebook. I could not tag you in my post, so I'm going to be doing that going forward. All in all, a wonderful, wonderful speech. I know hopefully I can do that in the chat for us, summarize some of my own learnings. I did have a couple of things that we could do a little differently, especially when we know we have a big meaty project in the middle of our meeting, especially for one like today. My suggestion would be, and I've been in this spot, Vandita, many times, my suggestion would be when we are Toastmasters, our real goal for you and me, especially as Toastmaster and General Evaluator, is not only to set context and make everyone feel welcome, but get to the point almost as quickly as possible. So while your anecdotes helped us trim, you could have moved it just a little bit faster because our panelists are waiting, our panel moderator is waiting, our people are anxious. We had over 50 people. So your and my job is to keep things rolling. So as much as we have power in our stories to set context, we want to balance it out nicely. So that would be my suggestion for both you and me. I'm also staying conscious of that, right? You and I are orchestrators and MCs for the program. So that is number one. And number two, as a panel moderator myself, as a person who does this in and outside of Toastmasters and has been doing it for a number of years, I learned a couple of things, especially when we want to invite the audience, make everyone feel conversational and welcome. We tend to forget our tone a little bit. So today's, especially with the theme as humorous speaking and humorous speeches. We wanted everyone to feel comfortable and break out of their discomfort and get them involved, right? So that was really our tone. As we moved from that into introducing our panelists and setting up our panel moderator and our evaluator, sometimes in each of us, this is an opportunity. We tend to forget that there is a certain formality when we introduce our guests. As Toastmasters who act and mostly deliver our goods outside of Toastmasters meetings, I want us to be conscious of that. Regardless of the theme of the meeting, there is a tone difference between being conversational, moving into the main part where there is a certain formality, and then easing up after. So these are my only two suggestions as our general evaluator, is to balance out time between setting context and actually moving the meeting along. And second is to mind our tone when we are trying to be warm and welcoming versus when we are actually positioning our special guests a certain way. So the tone moderation there. With that, it has been my pleasure to serve as your general evaluator on a bright Sunday long weekend morning for me in Cleveland, Ohio. I will turn things over back to our Toastmaster. Thank you for the opportunity, Toastmaster Vandita.
As pretty fierce, and as easy to hear she is, and as lovable she speaks, she's insightful. Thank you, General Evaluator Shravanti. I have taken all your insights and encapsulated them in my brain, and I'll be using them the next time I'm the TM of the day. I feel a little relieved. My job is done. I feel a little relieved that the panel moderation has been done. I feel a little relieved that the people have still stayed and have not got bored. But I would like to mention a few things. First of all, the charming blue-eyed woman, Milana, absolutely stunning to have you. Our wow counter, Krishnesh, thank you for not sleeping in between the meeting and keeping the notes of everything. Thank you, panel moderator Dan Magill, for not stopping the panelists and saying, I know it better, I can tell you. And thank you, our presiding officer, Ameresekere, for actually presiding the meeting and giving us this opportunity wherein we could learn from 3 humorous speech champions. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam MC for the day, Toastmaster Vandita Shukla. And I quickly would like to thank all the panelists for visiting us and enriching us with your experience. I believe we did make a difference to all the 50, 60 participants that we had during the session. And now for further announcements, I would like to give the stage to the person who actually makes sure that we maintain, and probably she ends up enhancing the quality of every meeting. This is the person who the most creative and enthusiastic Toastmasters in my life, Distinguished Toastmaster Gayatri Deshmukh, our VP Education for Connected Across Miles Toastmaster Club. Over to you, Distinguished Toastmaster Gayatri.
Thank you so much, Madam President. This is an announcement that both of us wanted to make it together because she had half the information, I had half the information. So I will be sharing the information and she'll be welcoming you for this very novel, and it's not novel basically, but it's going to be an interesting session. On 8th of October, we have World Champion of Public Speaking, 2nd place winner, Distinguished Toastmaster Nisha Shivram, joining us. And it's not going to be an education session like always. It's not going to be just that she's going to come and deliver a speech. It's going to be a conversation. She's going to be interviewed by District 124 PR Manager, Distinguished Toastmaster Rohan Nag. And there will be a few more things in that meeting which are going to be interesting. If you like the meeting today, I think you will enjoy this meeting too. So please mark your calendars, Sunday, 8th of October, 2023, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. India time. So, Madam Hostess of Connected Across Miles Toastmasters Club, let's extend the invite.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Again, I welcome and I invite you all for the session, for the wonderful lineup. Again, as I said, our VP Education has ensured to enhance the quality of every meeting, and thank you so much for arranging this session. I hope we will be able to enrich using this platform and touch every Toastmaster.